Hey everyone, welcome back to Crunching Your Growth. I'm Phil Masiello, and today got somebody really exciting in the engine room of real world innovation. Dan Ward, he's the co-founder and president of Detroit Labs, and this team is trusted by GM, by Ford, Volkswagen, Jimmy John's, Domino's, Driveway.com, and a bunch of other brands that you would know. And what I love about Dan's approach is simple. It's no theater. He focuses on outcomes. He builds teams that connect design to engineering to the business case so products don't just look good, they move the needle. So we'll get into productize innovation inside large organizations, how to manage risk without killing speed, and what founders can steal from Detroit Labs playbook to scale smarter. He also mentors, Dan does, at Central Michigan University's new venture competition. So he's shaping the next generation too, which I love because as you guys know, I mentor at University of Maryland and University of Baltimore School of Entrepreneurship, so that we talk to these young entrepreneurs or the next generation coming up and sort of give them a real world idea of what they're going to face and also help them along the way. So this one, I hope, is packed with frameworks that you guys can use. So let's bring Dan in and let's start talking about his background, how he got into what he was doing, how he got there, what he likes, doesn't like, what some of the obstacles were. Dan, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, my pleasure. Sure. So why don't you take us through your history, your background, what you did, what you started, how you got to where you are today, and how you got to be the genius that you are today.
Genius is kind of you, but also not accurate. So, I suppose since you mentioned Central Michigan University, we can probably start there because at this point, that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Sure.
So I actually went to be a teacher. Decided I didn't want to teach after I got almost completely done with it, and decided to pursue a history degree, non-teaching. So I am qualified to run a museum, and that's probably about it. But during my time there, I fell in love with technology. I was working at a help desk for the actual university, had some really great mentors there, and just really fell in love with technology. From there, I ended up applying and getting a job with Quicken Loans at the time. Now they're Rocket, but Quicken Loans at the time for desktop support. So it was my job to run around, fix computers, get keyboards, help out all the different bankers and different roles within Quicken Loans at the time. Well, through that process, there was an opening to support their executive team, what they call the Z team.
Mhm.
I applied. I had an opportunity to work with another leader that was in that role as well. So him and I kind of tag team to support the executives. It was interesting. It was kind of fast paced. They had a lot of interesting challenges that were new to me.
Yeah.
And then I met Dan Gilbert. So if for those that don't know, Dan Gilbert is the founder of Quicken Loans, now Rocket Mortgage. He's our local billionaire in Michigan here. Great guy. And I had an opportunity to work directly with him for about 3.5 years, which
That's great.
included a little bit of tech support, building presentations, flying with him, which was interesting. He owns the Cleveland Cavaliers, so I'm a lifelong sports fan, and being able to meet all of those guys was really quite great. So I learned a ton from Dan, and from there ended up starting Detroit Labs with 3 other co-founders. So there's 4 of us, and we're a design and development shop. We're in downtown Detroit. You mentioned some of our great partners that we've been working with since 2011. So it's kind of interesting. I've grabbed nuggets and tidbits along the way that have really built up a foundation in me and really helped to get Detroit Labs where they are today.
So walk us through that. So what do you do when you say design? Are we talking about technology design? Are we talking about website design? Are we talking about what kind of design are we talking about?
Kind of all of above. What we tend to do is we work with clients when they have either a challenge that they're trying to solve, maybe a pain point either that they are experiencing or maybe a customer is experiencing with them.
Right.
And we try to unpack that problem and then create a solution for it. So from a design standpoint, we're designing a solution first and foremost. Then we're designing what you feel, what you see. So if you go to jimmyjohns.com, their website, or you go to Jimmy John's mobile app, that's our partnership with Jimmy John's. So when I say design, everything you see there, everything you touch, click, And then we build the underlying technology to that too. I think what makes us um, kind of unique is the fact that we're really great at that user experience, that problem solving, that design component of it, but we can back that up with engineering.
Yeah.
I think is really key, so we can do that full scale solution for our partners.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that there's a company out that does a lot of advertising on social media called Ugly Baby, which focuses on UX UI for websites. And having dealt with e-commerce for the last 25 years, UX and UI and all those things that you talk about, engineering the solution and touch points, it's extremely important. But I think that you have to really understand the user, and I I I don't like it when people try and make that a simple plug and play type operation, because it's not. You have to. It requires a lot of testing. It requires a lot of knowledge. It requires a lot of understanding of how people are going to use the product, whether it's an app or whether it's a website. I like to hear the fact that you guys do it and then build the underlying technology, and that it's not just some sort of plug and play device.
What's interesting, you talk about the audience or the users. I think there's a natural desire to build something for everybody.
Yeah,
Because if you're taking a look at it, okay, I have this big range of customers, and I want every single customer to have a wonderful experience with me, and I want to build a technical solution that provides or facilitates that. And while certainly I can appreciate wanting to solve every single customer pain point or every opportunity there, it's noble, and I do understand why folks want to do that. When you are trying to design something that people will use, that will provide value to them, I do think it's important to really focus in on who the core user is. I think somebody on our team, Mark, I think once told me, "What is it? You delight your primary audience, you appease your secondary," something along those lines. And that work of really pinpointing who that primary audience is and who can, receive the most value from your digital solution, that's the work. That's very, very difficult.
I agree with that. You can't, you can never build anything, an app or a website that's going to be perfect for everybody, because everybody's going to have sort of their own opinion about what's going on. And you're 100% right. You got to look at your core audience and how they're going to use it, and then your secondary audience. They're going to be okay, but you can't, because everybody's going to have some problem along the way, and you can't solve every single problem. And when you start getting onesies and twosies, like, oh, I didn't like where this was on the checkout page, or I didn't like this, or I missed this on your homepage. Well, that's one or two. It's not 100 people responding, right? So,
Yep, and it's the work to figure out, is it one or two, right? Like that in and of itself is the challenging work. And I think you certainly can find partners that can build something that looks beautiful. You certainly can find partners that build something that works very, very well. But being able to figure out, who is that proper audience, and are the loud voices just a couple loud voices?
yeah,
I think that's it. I mean, honestly, in business in general, relationships in general, oftentimes the loud voices we give priority to, and those loud voices might actually be the minority voice in there.
right.
So I think that is in and of itself a challenge. And on the usability of software point, there's something I try to always tell our customers: we can build the very, very best solution, technical marvel of a solution, right?
Right.
Beautifully designed. If no one uses it, you've just wasted all of your money.
Yeah.
So we always try to make sure we get our clients to focus in on who that customer is.
Yeah. No, I agree, which is important. I think from our perspective, it's a tremendous amount of marketing and advertising that we do. It's it's amazing to me that how many companies don't really truly understand who their core customer is. I can't tell you how many times we speak to people, and We say, well, who's your customer? Well, I'm in the shaving business, so everybody's my customer. Men and women, they all shave. Well, that's not necessarily true. I was in the shaving business. I had a brand, and our core customer was between 18 and 45, and they were predominantly male. And that's, certainly we had people that were older than that, people that were younger than that buying the product. But the reality is that's your core customer, and you should always know who it is. But too many people, they think that, or too many brands, they just come out with these and they really don't know. And then when we start digging in, we do a lot more research on it and come back and tell them who their core customer is. And sometimes they're open to it, and sometimes they're not, which is always a challenge as to whether or not some of these brands that you're working with are open to the suggestion or open to the feedback or what you're telling them.
Yeah, it's also, I think it's delivering that message. If you can remove a level of arrogance out of the delivery, if you can make sure that you communicate that, hey, at the end of the day, the only way we are successful is if you are successful. So we're trying to help each other get to that point.
Yeah,
I think oftentimes when it comes to when it comes to design in general, I mean, it's full of a lot of opinions.
sure.
I mean, it's not an objective thing. And I think that communicating that is really comes down to that relationship and that trust between both folks, and realizing that, hey, we're in this together and we want to see you be great, because only then will we be great.
Yeah. Yeah. But regarding design, though, well, it's specifically website design and flow. I mean, there are tools that you can use that will help determine whether or not something is working or not. And there's a lot of these. We're hooked up with this company, and they're in Germany, but they based out of Germany, but they work everywhere, and they provide user feedback. You give them the website. When you make changes, they put 30, 40 people, however many you want, to use the product and or to use the website and give you feedback on what they got hung up on, what they understood, what they didn't understand, which I think is extremely valuable, because
Yeah.
we do website redesigns or website designs as well. And it's amazing how many people want a beautiful, pretty website, but to the expense of or to the detriment of the usability. I'll give you an example. We had this one site that had all these moving, flowy backgrounds in with the site, and we kept saying, I think it's restricting your conversion rate, because we were showing them the conversion rate was extremely low. And I said, I think people are getting confused and spending too much time, and it didn't work well on mobile, and but they loved it internally. They loved it, and they felt like that was part of their brand experience. And we had, I think, 100. We contracted to get 100 people to use it. Every one of them, everyone said, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen," and that sort of opened their eyes. So it wasn't us telling them; it was the 100 users that went on there, and then we did a little bit further testing to show them that this wasn't the best thing for them. So
It's putting that what is it, the little bit of science to the art, right?
yeah,
Design is so art, and if you can put a little bit of data, a little bit of math and science to it, it really helps bridge that gap.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because it's you don't want you don't want to try and build something that's so beautiful and so over the top that it actually hurts your sales. So,
Agree.
and then when startups come, when we work with, if we work with a lot of startups, or even in mentoring startups, everybody always tries to make the most perfect website. And we keep telling them, go out there with the simplest website that you can, and let's get started selling. Because the key here is get people to buy your product. Forget about, making it as the most spectacular website, because you can always go back and continue to enhance it. You know,
It's interesting you say focus on getting someone to buy your product. That reminds me of a couple of different things. A, feedback that I give entrepreneurs at Central Michigan when I'm working with them, but also like an epiphany that I had in probably month one, which was, all right, I'm building a company that has a service. If no one wants to buy that service, then you do not have a company. And
right?
so you need to be able to get out there and communicate what you do, what you offer, and actually go out there and sell. And I do think that I it's not just one person that I've seen go through the program that is not ready to actually go and sell their product or focus on selling, right? And it's kind of interesting that regardless of whether that's through the design of a site or whether that's through goals and initiative of your business, you have to sell something in order to have a functioning business.
Yeah. I actually was, I was just, I did I did a presentation last week actually to a bunch of entrepreneurs, and I said, because everybody wants to talk about raising capital, or the question became like, when's the right time to raise capital? And I said, the right time to raise capital is after you've proven your model. And you prove your model when you go out there with your minimum viable product, and you go out there and you find somebody who's going to pay for your product or service. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a SaaS product, a physical product, or a service. I don't care. Go out there and find somebody who's going to buy your product, going to pay you for it, not in a beta test, in a real life situation. They're going to pay for your product, and they're going to see value in it because you're going to talk to them and find out what they like, what they don't like. And once you do that, and then you can start getting more people to buy your product. And then if you need money, if you can't bootstrap it past that, then you can go out. But at that point in time, you've proven that you have something that people value. And I think too many times everybody gets so focused, or not everybody, but entrepreneurs and startups get so focused on raising capital like it's some sort of a badge of honor. And I always say it's not a badge of honor. Getting 100 people to buy your product, that's a badge of honor. Getting 100 people to pay for your product and give you positive feedback, it's a badge of honor. But raising capital, that's just a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, I mean, not raising capital is probably the bigger badge of honor, right? Can you do it without going out and seeking external funds? Easier said than done in a services business like ours compared to a product business, but still.
Yeah, but there's ways to do it. When we were in the shaving business, we 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 went with our manufacturer, who was Schick, and we got them to invest in us. Sometimes it's not about capital. Sometimes it's about terms, or sometimes it's about carrying you forward. Sometimes it's about putting cash in or whatever. So there's always ways. I agree with you. Bootstrapping as far as you can go is the best way to do it. Sometimes the more technical the product, though, like especially when it comes to SaaS products, you do need outside funding, especially with some of the things that are going on in the world of AI today. It requires cash, but still, you can still go out and prove that what you have is valuable, and then you've got terms at which to negotiate and bargain with. At least
Yeah.
you've got something that says this works. People value it, and I want it. I want to sell it. So, you know, I don't know if you run into that kind of thing in the work that you guys do. I mean,
We don't see that as much. Typically we're working with Fortune 500 clients. Like when we started off with the business, we actually thought early on that a big market for us would be startups because in the ecosystem that we have, there are a lot of startups, and we thought,
sure.
hey, great built-in market for us. This is going to be wonderful. Well, we have all onshore development.
Yeah.
Everybody, especially when we started, everyone was in the Metro Detroit area, but all of our folks are in the U.S. and therefore have U.S. salaries. Therefore, we need to have bill rates that support those U.S. salaries. So very quickly, it became obvious that two things: one, um, those types of salaries don't work for startups.
No.
Two, startups want to build their own team, and I do understand and appreciate and suggest that to be the case. They want to build their own team. So we quickly had to find out where our new clients were going to come from. So yeah, Fortune 500 clients tend to be where we play now. So the funding component of it it's different. It's how can we get their funding, if you will. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you start? How did you? I mean, your first year must not have been like all rosy, was it? I mean, maybe it
No, I
was.
mean, so it's kind of interesting. We started the business. There was four of us co-founders. Three of us are still working in the business, and we did not know each other going into it,
Oh,
which
really?
is Yeah, I recommend to people. We were put together to start the company, and I kind of recommend that because we we have a lot of complementary skills, but we also do things that each other don't. We have this really wonderful Venn diagram between the three of us, and we can also get into a room and have some really heated debates, to the point where it's yelling back and forth, and then we can go get lunch. We don't have like that 15, 20 years of friendship baggage where we're like, oh my goodness, they didn't like me this whole time, or this thing I did really bothered them and they never told me. It's like, no, we're fine. Right. We'll go get lunch and we'll come back and maybe we'll have a heated debate again, or maybe we'll just be cool with each other. And so I'm not sure that that would always work so well of being able to fit so perfectly together, but we were put together by an individual or two, and it has worked. And so that first year, we were fortunate enough to get a couple early wins. And we're a services business, so if you get a couple early wins, you can kind of start to fund yourself.
Sure.
And so those early wins really really helped. We were fortunate enough to win business with DT Energy, which is our local Fortune 500 energy company here. We won business with Domino's Pizza, which is an amazing partner for a couple years. And then we won business with Chevrolet. And with GM, we built a app for the Super Bowl, the 2012 Super Bowl. And when we were doing that, we had like 3 months to build this app. So we started the business in 2011, and we had an opportunity to build this app for the 2012 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so we had all hands on. We had 14 people in the company at the time. We
Wow.
felt like we were huge. And we had all hands on building this application, including myself and the other co-founders. We all had roles. And we felt like once this thing hit, right, it had national commercials. As long as it did well, went off without a hitch, the business was going to come flowing in. It was just going to be a natural thing. Um, Fortunately, it did go well. Went off with, for the most part, without a hitch. Won several awards. Won a Cannes Gold Lion, which I'd never heard of before, but
Mhm.
apparently is a big deal in the advertising world. And so we sat there and went, all right, the deals are going to start flowing in. They did not. And so very early on, we realized that you have to constantly be selling. You have to
Oh, yeah.
constantly be communicating your message out. And there's not a, at least you're not in the first year going to have people coming inbound to you, regardless of what you develop. So we had a couple lean months after that, and certainly it was a good lesson that, I think different versions of that lesson have been learned over and over again throughout the years. But that one was really strong start. Couple months that were pretty scary.
Yeah. I can imagine. I mean, we had a similar story when we started because we had Energizer. It came out of the shaving business, and they owned Schick at the time. They spun off all the personal care. It's called Edgewell now, and that was our first client. We were doing shaving, and then after that, I kept thinking to myself because we were doing quite well. I said, we can't hang our hat on one client. Even I don't care how big they are. We have to diversify. And then we realized that we had to have some sort of an outreach strategy because you can't just go out there and say, hey, this is our client, let's do this for you. It doesn't work that way. So
Yeah, the outreach strategy I feel like is something that we have started and stopped. I don't know, a dozen or 2 dozen times over the years of Detroit Labs existence. We haven't. I don't think we have found one way that works really great every time. I feel like we're onto something right now. I feel pretty confident about it. So we'll see. We'll let that plan develop out. But sales, I think, is when it comes to starting a business, I mean, when it comes to scaling and growing a business, it all revolves around sales,
oh yeah.
and either a lack of desire or acceptance to invest in sales processes, lead generation. I think that is honestly, it's the kiss of death of a business. Like if you have something to offer and people aren't buying it, then you have a hobby. You don't have a business.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah, and it got, what was funny was that we had a really robust and great process, outreach process that was generating what we needed to generate all the way up until 2020, COVID, and then it just fell apart. Didn't and it hasn't worked the same since. We had to adjust and make changes. We have a great process now, but it's totally on LinkedIn. Has nothing to do with what we were doing before. But there's a couple of things. One is obviously content that we do that generates a lot of interest, and then uh, speaking, books, things like that. But as far as outreach goes, we have a great process on LinkedIn that works really well, and I think it's because you can be more um, you can be more authentic and you can be more conversational. I think that the days, this is my personal opinion. I know that a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think the days of email outreach are dead. I think that people's email just cluttered with crap. I think it's really difficult now to get that message out on a cold outreach system. And I think that people just don't react to it because everybody's making these weird claims. You have to be authentic. You can't just go out there on the first touch point and start saying, no, I'm going to 10x your business overnight, or I can do this for you. It just doesn't work anymore. At least it's not working for us. And I am of the opinion that it doesn't work that well anymore. So I think you have to take a really unique approach. And for us, we've struggled with it over the last few years because, again, what worked before doesn't work anymore. And then I think back about when I was an entrepreneur and founded other business, other brands, and the things I did to get noticed. And I just went back to that playbook and did some things to get noticed. And that seems to work well. Sometimes you just have to. There's a guy, I should introduce you to him. His name is Jim James. He's got a program called the Unnoticed Entrepreneur, and he comes from the school of using PR and stunts to get noticed, to get your brand and your product noticed. And I use that methodology with the shaving business, with the beauty business, and I started doing it now with this business, and it yields results. People, if you can stop people in their tracks and get them to pay attention to you for 5 minutes, you can do a lot of damage.
So I got to ask, what stunts? Now I'm really curious. Stunts in the shaving business, and that is a fascinating way to do it. And I totally can see the value.
You want me to tell you a story?
Love a stunt story.
Okay. So we started the shaving business. We had a great product. We had a U.S. made razor. This was before anybody else went out. No, there was no Dollar Shave. There was no Harry's. I actually had the idea when we were in the beauty business, we were going to do it with women, and the reason we were going to do it was because in the beauty business, we had developed, our product developer developed this just phenomenal shave cream for women. It was unbelievable, and so we went to Energizer and pitched them on the idea of giving us a razor, right? We knew Gillette was never going to private label anything, but we did know that Energizer private labeled razors for Amazon and Walmart. So we went to them and they were intrigued because they didn't understand direct to consumer, but they said it's going to take us about a year. I said, okay. Subsequent to that, we wound up selling the beauty business. We got an offer. And so I went back to them and said, I still want to do it. Got the razor, got everything set up, and we had a line of men's and women's shave cream, aftershave, things like that. So we were all set to go. First year, we went out there doing all the things we knew how to do: advertising, marketing, social media, content. Wasn't working. Orders are trickling in. I'm frustrated, and I'm thinking, what are we doing wrong? Got a great message, and it's just not. We can't get it out. The traditional methods weren't working. So, like you, I'm a sports fan. I woke up one morning. I'm reading the sports news, and there used to be a pitcher pitched for San Francisco Giants named Brian Wilson. Had an epic beard. Major League Baseball hated it. It was always a big bone of contention, and everybody knew it. He had Tommy John surgery, got injured. They traded him to the Dodgers. First time he was going to pitch in a year. So I sent an email to his people, and I said, I will pay Brian Wilson $1 million to shave with our razor. That's how confident I am that this is a great razor. They responded back and said, we will pass that on to Brian and get it and discuss it with him and see how he feels. That's all I needed. I can now legitimately say I am in discussions with Brian Wilson to shave his beard with our razor. Gave that to the PR firm. It exploded everywhere. People were pissed at us. Social media, they were sending, it was only Facebook at the time, I think maybe a little bit of Instagram, sending pictures of every single body part with a price tag on it. I'll shave this for 10 grand, this for 15 grand, some not safe for work. I'll shave this. We had people screaming at us, how could you pay a millionaire money, $1 million? How you're a disgrace. Every sports channel in the world wanted to interview us going, do you think he's really going to shave his beard? You know, so all of a sudden, for a week, we just exploded everywhere. So we got earned media, and we got about I don't know 50, 60,000 orders out of it. And as these things do, it sort of died down after about 10 days. TMZ catches Brian Wilson coming out of a gym in California, in LA, and they ask him, are you going to shave your beard? He's expletive rant about, I'm not shaving this beard for anybody. Well, it explodes again. Now people are pissed that he's not taking $1 million, right? So it just, that was the thing that launched us. So from there, it was about a month's worth of earned media that just put us on the map. And once you got that many orders, I think at the end of the day, we had, close to 100,000 orders. And once you have 100,000 orders, now you got something to build on. Now now you've got retention. And so that's sort of what we did. That was a stunt.
And it's ultimately only cost you the PR firm, right?
Yeah. 1
Right.
month. Ultimately it cost us, so I think about that, and I've used that, and I've coached other young entrepreneurs to think like that. Nothing that wasn't destructive. I wasn't lying. I didn't do anything that was unethical. It was just it was a stunt, and it was an opportunity. So look for opportunities to get your brand out there, get noticed. And Jim, I will put you in touch with him because you would enjoy his show and maybe going on his show. He has other things that he's done, because he brought European cars into China, and he did some things with like parachutes and jumping out of airplanes and things like that. I mean, just earned media that will get you on the map. And so I started to go back to that about a year ago with this business, and looking for ways that I can, get noticed essentially, and do things that, um, will get me get me in front of people, and get them to think differently. Because if I'm saying, I mean, if you think about it logically, right? If I'm saying, hey, I can help grow your brand, and if I can do something that gets you to stop and say, oh yeah, that was pretty creative, then it sort of builds credibility anyway.
Sure.
You know?
No, that's fascinating. That's a great story, because, and ultimately he didn't shave his beard, right? Like, you have to excuse me for not knowing, but he did not shave his beard, right?
he, I don't know if you know who Brian Wilson is, or if you remember any
I
of
know
that
who
stuff.
he is. I just don't know if he ultimately ended up
No,
down the road
he
shaving.
Major League Baseball could not get him to shave his beard, and I think he was getting fined, because at the time they didn't want anybody that wasn't clean shaven. So I think he was getting fined, so close to $500,000 a year, and didn't care. He was not shaving his beard, so I knew he was going to shave his beard. I knew he wasn't gonna, and I didn't care. All I wanted was for them to say, I'll discuss it with him. That's all I needed.
That's
And we did some other things along the way, and to do stuff like that, and just get some earned media. Michael Phelps was involved in the company as well, because I'm in Baltimore, and he used to swim at this swim club. And I don't know if you've ever, I did triathlons for a little while, and, yeah,
sorry to hear.
I know I've shaved my legs and my body,
Sure.
right? And getting into water after you've done that is like one of the most uncomfortable experiences. And it's even worse than the swim. And, he used to shave his entire body, and I saw him coming out of the pool, and I gave him the shave cream and the razor. And I said, just give it a shot. And he loved it. And so he wound up getting involved. And so we had, that was another piece that we had. We had him saying, it was great. So, just things like that can get you in front of people.
I love it. I love it, especially now that you got Phelps involved, since he's going to use it daily. Well, or however often you shave your entire body to swim. I
He
suppose
should.
that's like a daily or twice weekly thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on for me, it was, to do a race, for example, you're going to put a wetsuit on, you're shaving, because
Sure.
if not, that polypropylene is going to pull on your, you know,
Yeah.
so
Right. Yeah. One way or another, it's coming off.
yeah, it's coming off. So, it's better you shave it off. So anyway, but I think about that, and I always try and go to that with brands that we work with on what they can do. And I think, social media, short form video, long form video lends itself to doing things like that. And you see it today there's a lot of young creative people out there doing some really good things to get noticed. So anyway,
Love it. I love it.
that's
It's
that's
awesome.
that's sort of my advice to you is think about something you could do to get some earned media.
Do something wild around software development.
You never know, man. There's a
Maybe
million
we just
things
have
you
to
can do.
release a bug to then fix the bug.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of sandwiches going to one house, and we'll fix the bug, and then we'll end up getting it figured out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You never know. There's a million things you can do out in the world. So, what's on the future for you next? You've got to, everybody's always got to keep that ball rolling in order to stay relevant and stay, in touch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think we've seen a few different things in the industry that, we have to adapt to an industry, right? Like
Sure.
we have to really try to figure out what clients are spending on, what moves the needle of their business, and kind of map that with what the overall technology industry is doing as well. So obviously the technology industry is all AI all the time, and that's what everyone wants to talk about, right? And certainly ton of value there. I do understand that. I get frustrated with it sometimes because I feel like it, at least for me, messes up more than it does well. But one thing we're working on right now is some conversational AI type technology, which is really, really neat. So technology that sits on top of traditional LLMs and can give that low latency round trip type feedback. And actually, I'm going to give them a free plug here, 11 Labs. If you have not
Oh
used their
yeah.
product, amazing, amazing
Yeah,
product.
yeah, yeah.
We've done a lot of comparing of them versus competitors, and just absolutely incredible. And so things like that have kind of energized at least me. And I know the team has found a few of those things interesting. And then it's also because we're a professional services organization, we bill out time, right? And how can we be more efficient with our time? Can
Yeah.
we use AI to create some level of efficiency? And what is really interesting for us is if you have your own business, right, implementing AI within your own business for coding, for efficiency and stuff like that, it's a very easy thing to do. Easy decision to decide to do it, I should say. Maybe implementation is difficult.
Yeah.
For us, where it's different is we're building code bases, we're building designs and strategy for another company. They end up owning it at the end.
Right. Right.
So building in AI for efficiency there, we're kind of an interesting dynamic. It's their code. Can we build AI into their code? They have to tell us yes or no. It's kind of fascinating in a lot of ways. So we're doing a lot of that work right now too, is to figure out, okay, can AI provide us with meaningful efficiencies when it comes to developing? We know there's potential for it. We've a bunch of amazing tools that are already out there right now. Will it do that over and over again? And we want to make sure our clients see value in that too. In theory, it should make investing in us and in a project a little bit more appealing for them, because in theory they'll get more for their investment if we're using AI. But it's not black and white. And so I think that's a big piece of what we're looking at right now. How can we become more efficient? And then also, how can we play with some of these AI experiences that provide like tremendous value to the customer? I was told once that AI specifically generative AI, is the solution in search of a problem. And it took me a minute to really figure that out. And we started playing with it and we were getting incredible results. And we're like, this is really, really cool. And then we would, take one of these generative AI bots, if you will, to a potential client and say, look at how amazing this technology is.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, how could we use that? I'm like, well, customer service, training, HR, all kinds of different avenues where you could use this. And getting it past proof of concept, getting it to a point where customers are saying, yes, I want to pay for that. And yes, I trust its output. That has been an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
And they're looking at it saying, okay, yeah, our HR processes could be better. Yes, our training could be better. But is it so bad that I need this, drastically new solution? So it ends up being this solution that's in search of a problem that is so bad that it needs that solution, that there's so much upside in adopting that solution.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic. I love the technology. I think it'll have a great place at some point. Um, but that's kind of where we're at with it right now.
Yeah. I can see that point. For us, we use it. We use it a lot. But we use it a lot in different areas. Personally, I love it and I've loved it for years when it comes to data analytics. To me, it's amazing when it comes to data analytics. I love it. We've built some agents internally to do some repetitive tasks. I love that. But when you're when you're selling it to somebody else, it's a little bit different because it has to be maintained. It has to be continually updated and it has to have guardrails and somebody's got to manage those guardrails because if you don't, it could easily go off the rails. Even if it's just a simple bot, a simple chat bot or a simple process bot. So I think that that's where the selling of the technology becomes a little bit more difficult because they're not buying it once and you've got to maintain that thing. You've got to stay with them. Um, we don't use it for ads. We don't use it for creating content like that because I I actually just got involved in a conversation today on LinkedIn where somebody was talking about creating images with it. And I said, look, we've tested this to death. I'm going to tell you that the customer wants authenticity. You put an AI image out there, the customer knows it's not authentic. They're going to discount your brand.
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel about it. And we've tested it millions and millions of times. I wish it was that easy. But there are other places where we use it. Like I said, I think that for me, data analytics, it's unbelievable when I can dump years and years and years of data from an advertising platform into it and within 30 minutes have a great understanding of what's going on. I think ideation, it's phenomenal for us, and we use it for, editing, video editing, things like that. But
We do a ton of market research with it, and that is
yeah,
nice, right? We definitely have a company profile or a client profile that we go after when we're doing outreach, and then also if there's an inbound lead or an offer for an introduction somewhere, it's really good for us to have a good idea of the company profile of those. There was one time I used it where I was really kind of blown away by its potential. It happened to be, it was for Wolverine footwear. I don't know if you're familiar with them or
yeah,
not, but
sure,
they own multiple brands. And I was doing some cold outreach to somebody at Wolverine. They happened to be a Central Michigan University alum. So I was just trying to connect with them. And I was asking Gemini, hey, what was their annual revenue last year? And it's very easy to find that. And so Gemini gives me the revenue. And then it said that, the trailing 12 months was down significantly.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, interesting. So that is public information that Gemini was able to find. Sure, I could have found that out myself as well. But then I could ask it, why was the trailing 12 down? And its response I thought was phenomenal. One, market conditions. Okay, that I think everyone could have figured that one out
Sure,
the last couple of years, right? Market conditions. But the hidden gem that it came up with, no pun intended with Gemini, but the hidden gem it came up with was that they sold a brand. And I think they might have sold two brands.
Uh-huh.
So by selling two brands, you're immediately going to drop your revenue.
Sure.
And so I thought that that was a fascinating use of AI that I would have had to probably cross-reference a bunch of different earnings documents or PR releases or things like that. And Gemini was able to go out and give me just wonderful context to a trailing dip in revenue. And so now I'm looking at Wolverine going, nope, still a good one to go after, right?
Yes.
Like,
Sure.
revenue went down because they sold off brands. Strategic move. Earnings probably actually went up because they got rid of those brands, better focus. So, anyways, I just thought that was a really, really great use case for AI.
Yeah. No, it's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
So shout out to Wolverine if you're at all listening. We'd love to do work with you. And sounds like your company's healthy.
I just have one. I have one question. We're running out of time, but I do have one quick question about your team. And I forgot to ask you before, but you said somebody put together your four of you, and you didn't know each other, and that must have taken a bit of time, or to get to know each other, because
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. And the reason I'm laughing is because um, one of our co-founders, Nathan, he is our COO. Learned a ton from Nathan over the years, but I met him the very first time in the lobby as we were getting ready to go in and pitch to a client.
oh Jesus,
So, obviously that pitch went swimmingly. It didn't. It was awful. And we just didn't have any chemistry. We didn't have time to work. So it was myself, and actually I think all the co-founders were there for that meeting. But I think everyone had somewhat met each other in different environments, but Nathan was the last person I didn't meet, and I met him right before that. And I think we all went in there not understanding each other's roles. I was so new to software development that the client was like, "Oh, we can do that, right?" And I would just spin and look at Nathan. I had no idea how to answer anything, right? And I was like, "Oh, can we do it, Nathan?" Or they'd be like, "How much does that cost? How much does it cost, Nathan?" And he was just like, "I don't know anything about this project. How can I price this?"
oh my God,
So we crashed and burned on that first one. We recovered, but yeah, it took a while to figure out what each other brought to the table. And once we got that figured out, then we really started to work well together. That was it was interesting though, right? Because there's a lot of feels and insecurities that are involved when you're trying to figure out, well, what role do I play? What role do they play? And
yeah.
how are we going to mesh and make this work? So it was an interesting dynamic early on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I've had co-founders a couple of times, and it's challenging to figure out what everybody's role is going to be, and then once you settle into those roles, it can work really well. But you're right. I mean, sometimes you have to have battles, but you have to be able to say, "Hey, look, we had the battle. Now let's go get lunch," like you said. That's really a healthy environment.
And I will say this because, and I think I tell everyone this, I could not imagine starting up a business, running a business without co-founders.
Yeah,
And I mean, obviously, I'm 14 years into this business, so I really can't imagine doing it without Paul and Nathan. I've learned a tremendous amount from both of them
yeah,
for different things, right? And I just can't imagine doing something like this on my own. From a skill standpoint, I wouldn't have the ability. But I mean, when things are going great, it's nice to smile with each other.
oh
When things are going bad, misery loves company. So
yeah,
it's really nice to be able to look at each other and say, "Wow, this is awful." Well, at least we're all having a terrible time.
yeah, yeah.
So fortunately, we've had more ups than downs, and we've done a really good job of keeping things even keel. But I could not imagine doing a business without co-founders.
Yeah. No, no, no. I agree with you. You need somebody else to balance it out. Any parting words? We've got about a minute left. Any parting words for young entrepreneurs out there who want to follow in your footsteps?
I think it's the kind of what I just said. Don't let yourself get too high. Don't let yourself get too low. Paul always told me this. He goes, "I refuse to say that Detroit Labs is a success. We have had successes."
Right.
And I think that is a brilliant statement because it allows you to be okay with the fact that there will be things opposite of successes. There will be challenges, and that doesn't take away from those high points. So I think as you're starting something up, stay even keel. Don't
Yeah.
over celebrate, but don't get too down when things go down, because they're going to go down.
Oh yeah.
You're going to have tough times. It's unrealistic to think it won't happen. So try your very, very best to stay even keel.
Yeah. That's great, man. Dan, I can't tell you, man, that was outstanding. I thought it was clear. I thought it was actionable. I thought it was pretty real. And, the big takeaways, right? You're aligning your design, your engineering, your business outcomes from day one. So I think that it was a great discussion, really impressive. And if this helped you guys out there, then do me a favor, share the episode with one founder who's stuck turning ideas into a real value. Subscribe for more founder to founder conversations every Tuesday, 6 p.m., E360 TV. Drop a comment and drop a comment on one move you're taking from Dan's playbook. Dan's information is all in the description of the show. Dan's LinkedIn, the website for the business, everything is in there. So if you want to get in touch with Dan, just hit him up on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'd be happy to have a conversation with you. And until next time, I'm Phil, and we'll talk next week.